We all grew up watching what the federal government could do, the Little Rock Nine, walking children into classrooms. And yet here we are, where we are wondering who the police serve and protect. From a legal standpoint, is there an executive order that can be fashioned by the White House that will at least address this problem for the right now, as opposed to the maybe next month?
No, a lot of these issues are state law issues. For example, this question of whether the president could sign an executive order concerning when police departments could release body cam footage. Well, it varies across the board. Different states have different laws, and there's different priorities with different sizes of police departments and their capacity to handle body cams and redactions and the like. So it's not feasible for an executive action to oversee 50 states and their specific laws. So at the moment, no, but what the push needs to be is to actually get the George Floyd Policing Act done.
So, Marc, the only solution, it seems, for us is by us. As you see it from the standpoint of that intersection between politics and law, what are the next steps that Black America should be taking? What are the questions that we should be asking people on Capitol Hill?
Well, I always say, organized people defeat organized power. So the first thing we have to do, the main thing we have to do is to find a way to organize. Organizing means several things, right? It means joining organizations. It means doing political education so that people know what the actual issues are. It means organizing a voting bloc so that we can actually put people into office, not just at the federal level, thinking about the presidential elections every 4 years, but at the state level, thinking about elections at the county and local level. That means every year we need to organize and vote. But we also need to understand that voting isn't a silver bullet, that voting is one tactic in an overall strategy toward freedom. That means that we have to apply pressure to our politicians once we've voted them into office. Joe Biden shouldn't feel comfortable right now. Joe Biden shouldn't feel as if he's won the election and has 3 years to figure this thing out. He should feel like every step, every choice, every policy option, every veto, every signing has a stake in whether or not he'll be reelected and whether or not he sustains Black support and American support more broadly. So that's what it means for us as a community to take action.
We're going to take a break. You are watching BNC's live coverage of the President's address to the joint session of Congress from Washington, D.C. I'm Del Walters at our headquarters in Tallahassee. Stay with us. We'll be right back. President Biden's Lift Every Voice plan just might be the one promise that got him elected. That promise to close the racial wealth and income gaps, expand access to high-quality education, end health disparities, strengthen America's commitment to justice, make equal protection a right, and address environmental injustices or justice. Welcome back to BNC's special coverage of the Lift Every Voice plan, the plan for Black America. Tonight, before that joint session of Congress, the president will underscore his administration's investment in Black-owned businesses. He'll also talk about affordable housing, equal pay, and racial wealth equity. And joining us once again are our BNC hosts, Marc Lamont Hill, Yodit Tewolde, and Charles Blow. And Charles, I'll begin with you. How would you grade this president's first 100 days in dealing with systemic racism? And even more importantly, what does it tell us about what the next 3.5 years might look like?
Well, I resist the putting an actual grade on it, but I will say this. What the president is following is a majority opinion policy agenda, meaning he is targeting policies that most Americans already agree with, hoping that he can hold a lot of the independents and win over a few Republicans. The problem with such a strategy is that it always leaves out the majority perspective or leaves out the possibility of leading with a charge to specifically address minority issues. There's a reason that minorities have an issue, which is that they are not the majority, right? The country has always tried to make provisions to protect minority rights because you will always be at the bottom if majority always rules. If the policy agenda becomes a majority approved, a majority stamp of approval policy agenda, he will continue to skirt the things that do not have majority approval. And so even though you will have, I mean, part of what he's doing here is essentially a poor people's campaign for 2021. I mean, it's a lot of money being directed towards poor people. That is good. He doesn't say the word poor very often, but he does say poor children. So, you know, that is a good thing. But when it comes to these issues that specifically address black people, that are about black rights, black bodies, black sovereignty over their bodies, black liberation, black prosperity specifically, that is not a majority position. And so he may give some lip service to it, but he is not going to put all of his political capital into that lane right now before he takes this approach, which is to focus on rednecks, hard hats, blue collars before black faces.
Yodit, I am fascinated by this. You say you see one of the key additions to the president's cabinet as a highlight. Talk to us about the significance of Merrick Garland so far as the AG.
Well, unlike his predecessor, Garland commits to keeping the DOJ free of political interference, so that's one. But he also understands how limited the federal government is with regard to their oversight on local police departments. So he undid a memo. He rescinded a memo that was signed under the Trump administration limiting the use of consent decrees. Now, these consent decrees can make these local police departments, force them actually to undergo a number of things in order to reform their department from within, right? If they're repeatedly found to violate civil rights, then this is something that they are forced to do. And so Merrick Garland already has launched 2 pattern and practice probes within the Minneapolis PD and the Louisville PD, where Breonna Taylor was shot and killed. And so that's already light years ahead of what was already done before. So that is why I say that appointment was very, very important and good.
Let me just point out to all of us that we got a long way before we can actually even make up the ground that Charles Blow just laid with his rednecks and hard hats comment. But our coverage continues of President Biden's first address, the joint session of Congress. Stay with us.